The many tribes of Hauraki had been mostly friendly toward the Europeans since the day the Endeavour sailed into the Waiho. Cook was looking for the great southern continent so that he could claim it for the British Empire. The New Zealanders were looking to protect their territories and their mana. The Europeans had cloth and paper to trade for seafood and kete and mats woven from flax. When Cook's reports got back to Britain, vessels sailed to the Hauraki to trade for timbers for shipbuilding and flax for sails. There were times when their customs clashed, but to gain the benefits of trading with each other, they learnt to negotiate terms. Missionaries followed the traders to win souls for the church. Chiefs of Marutuahu asked for missionaries to come and live amongst them, to teach reading and writing to their people, and help them to put aside their muskets. When Governor Hobson arrived in 1840 with a treaty, most of the chiefs of Marutuahu refused to sign. They'd been governing themselves with tikanga and tapu from the time their ancestors had sailed from Hawaii. Let the Europeans govern themselves, and Hapu would govern their own lands and peoples. The town of Auckland was founded, and the tribes of Hauraki competed with each other to bring produce to the settlers. Vessels were going to and fro whenever the weather allowed, with pigs, potatoes, wheat, and fish. The peaches from the Thames were very popular. When produce was grown by the settlers, the hapu shifted to trading manaka firewood and kauri gum in exchange for European clothes and hats and pots and anything that appealed to Maori tastes and customs. The Europeans were mostly friendly to the tribes, and the two peoples lived peacefully alongside each other in their own ways, until the tribes in Waikato said "kaore," no, to selling more land. Tribal chiefs began to fear that their lands and way of life were being threatened. The government declared they were rebelling against the Queen and sent soldiers to take the land from them. Warships patrolled the Waiho and stopped vessels taking their goods to Auckland. The military wanted to warn the hapu against sending supplies to Waikato or joining the fighting. One warship, the HMS Miranda, fired cannon shells into the Pūkorokoro at Kaiawa, and tribespeople were killed. Business in Auckland boomed in those 2 years the imperial troops were in town. Then the soldiers left and business slumped. The same year, 1865, the Houses of Government moved from Auckland to Wellington. Hundreds of government workers, with their families and their wages, moved to Wellington as well. Auckland was in trouble. Businesses were closing their doors. The labouring classes could be seen on the streets, homeless and hungry. News got out that even some of the educated classes, too ashamed to ask for help, had died from lack of the necessaries of life. What could turn the tide of fortune? The hunt for gold in the Coromandel had failed. Would the Thames have a payable field? Would the Māori owners let miners in to prospect? Government Commissioner James Mackay met with Chiefs Hauru and Wiropi Taipere of Ngati Maru. The chiefs saw the promise of a new income in the European economy, leasing their lands for gold mining. They gave permission for 2 men, Williamson and Smallman, to search for gold between the Hape and the Karaka creeks. The miners drilled and dug and panned the rivers and found traces, but couldn't declare a payable field. the Provincial Council offered a reward, £5,000, to anyone who found a payable goldfield within 50 miles of Auckland. 2 men from Hauraki tribes, Paratene and Hamiora, returned from gold mining on the west coast. The Taipiri chiefs set them to work to succeed where others had failed. In June of 1867, in the Karaka Creek, they discovered enough gold to declare a payable field. James Mackay returned to the Thames to negotiate terms. The chiefs were willing, but their hapu were opposed. Ngati Maru had lost trust in the Pākehā government since the war in Waikato. Was it even safe to say no? They were angry at being treated unfairly, at being denied the same right as Europeans to buy ammunition for hunting. Weren't they also British subjects? They were fearful that allowing Europeans to come in might threaten the ownership of their lands. Even Williamson and Smallman had trespassed outside of their permitted areas of exploration. If 2 miners couldn't respect boundaries, how could 100 be trusted? A meeting was arranged, a hui, between James Mackay and Dr. Pollen, the tribal chiefs and the peoples of Ngati Maru. The people spoke about the importance of respecting their urupa, their grave sites, their cultivation sites, of not killing the pigs that roamed on the territory, of respecting the tribal boundaries. Those hapu who didn't want to allow gold mining wanted to know that the miners wouldn't trespass onto their lands. The tribe would be paid £1 for each miner's right. The miners could harvest the trees, but kauri were to be paid for at £1, 5 shillings each. After many hours of kōrero, of speaking and listening to and fro, agreement was reached. The boundaries of the field were described exactly, from the Kouranga river mouth in the south to the Kuranui stream in the north, from the Kakarimata stream in the east down to the sea in the west, an area of 8,000 acres. The land not to be included was the Wai o Tahe. Dr. Pollen issued the official proclamation, and the Thames goldfields were declared open.